Hi, I'm Clate Mask, and on the Conquer the Chaos podcast, I talk with inspiring business owners about what it takes to build a great business and a great life. That means more money, more time, more control, more impact, more freedom. So keep listening to hear the tough lessons they learned so you don't have to repeat them. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the Conquer the Chaos podcast. I am your host, Clate Mask, and author of Conquer the Chaos. And in this podcast, we talk about all of the keys to success that entrepreneurs need to practice in order to create a great business and a great life. I'm really excited today because we get to talk with Jennifer, who has been a longtime friend, a longtime partner of the company that I co-founded, Infusionsoft, Keep, you know it as. And it's a real pleasure to be with you. So Jennifer Orechwa, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm a huge fan of yours and of everything that you've built up till now. So this is a real pleasure to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. For the audience, I'm going to give a little background. Jennifer has a marketing agency called SALT. They are in the health and wellness space. Med spas they basically help the industry in health and wellness to create amazing marketing content, marketing automation. She is an expert in automation, and that's what we'll be talking about today. But Jennifer, is there anything else you want to share with people so that they know who they've got the pleasure of listening to today?
So I can talk about a little bit about my my history with Infusionsoft and with automation. I actually started with Infusionsoft back in 2006. Did it for my own company. So my
Amazing.
husband and I built a multi-seven-figure business that we exited in 21. And then I started Salt Marketing. We were very much in the corporate space and wanted to get a little more intimate with our clients. And so that's why we chose the health and wellness space and haven't looked back since. It's been fantastic.
I love it. First of all, congrats on what you built and then being able to sell it and then getting back into the space. You are a master of automation, and that's really what we're going to talk about today. Most of our listeners know that we talk about the 6 keys to success for entrepreneurs in Conquer the Chaos. 3 are on the personal side. That's mindset, vision, and rhythm. And then 3 are on the business side: strategy, automation, leadership. Let's talk automation, especially in this world of AI where, everybody's trying to figure out what does this mean. I want to unpack that a little bit because, we've been doing AI for a long time that people just called automation. And now you look at it, you're like, oh, I think what you're saying, and not in all cases, of course, there's some amazing things with generative AI, but a lot of the agentic AI is just the campaigns, the automations we've been doing for a long time. With a new name to it. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But why don't you tell us what, you want to get close to your clients, as you said. You wanted to get out of the corporate space and get into helping small businesses. A woman after my own heart. I feel the same way. One of my good friends, Dave Lee, who I think he told me one time, we can build the same exact thing for a mid-market company, an enterprise company, and the marketing manager, we get done, the marketing manager's like, okay, thanks, that's nice. We build it for an entrepreneur and they're like, oh my gosh, you've changed my life. It's so much more fun. It's the same thing, and yet it does make a massive impact. And so I love that you're doing that for small businesses in the health and wellness space. Why did you decide to get into that niche, first of all? And then what is it about the automation that you're able to provide that creates the fulfillment with your clients?
Yeah, and what you said there, there's so much truth in that. It's so much more rewarding to free someone up from the chaos of their business and being able to put those automations in place. So like you said, we work with med spas, functional medicine practitioners, hormone clinics, mental health practices. Essentially, these are very heart-led businesses that,
Yes.
they were formed to help people feel better and live better. And so what we're doing for them and in giving them this technology and empowering them is letting them connect on that personal level through segmentation, through personalization in a way that they really can't at scale. And so they start to see the possibility of, I can really grow beyond just myself. I don't have to pick up the phone and call every single person. We can touch these people. We can reach these people at scale, and it's still personal. It still feels real. It still feels like we care because we do.
Yeah.
And so that's what's really inspiring about it.
Well, I love that. You're right. That space is very much a heart-led space. These with practitioners who love their craft and love their patients, the people they work with, and yet the work of marketing and sales and driving customer acquisition and driving revenue, if they don't do that well, their business doesn't do well. And it doesn't matter how big their heart is, they're not able to be successful. And so you're helping them to create the to conquer the chaos and create the customer flow with automation. So let's click down a little bit. What is it in your automation that you provide in that space that you think is really driving a lot of value for them that maybe our listeners can hear and go, oh yeah, I could be doing that?
So a big part of it is the systems that we put in place. Like the individual automations are part of that system. Oftentimes when the words I hear when an ideal client comes my way is marketing doesn't work. I've tried
Hmm.
this thing, I've tried that thing, I've spent all this money, I've blown my marketing budget, I have no leads. And I'm like, you're exactly who I can help, because we can put this system in place, and automation is a huge part of that. But when we talk about attract, convert, create raving fans,
Yeah.
putting all of those pieces into place and having a strategic approach to it, as opposed to, well, I'm just going to run some ads on Facebook, it makes a world of difference.
Yeah.
And so looking at it in a higher level, approach without getting down into the minutia of the tactics, that's what really creates success. And they
Yeah.
oftentimes, particularly in this wellness space, they've never had anybody look at it like that for them. Like they know they need a website, they know they need SEO, they know they need to be on social media, but they aren't sure how all those pieces fit together. And when we can show them how that machine works, that's the light bulb goes off. They can stop DIYing their marketing. They don't have to be on Canva at midnight, this sort of thing.
Yes.
Those being able to free them up from that minutia is really what's inspiring.
Yeah. Well, they didn't get into business to do marketing. They didn't get into business to, run their client acquisition work. And a lot of times they really don't like the sales process, that they don't think of it as a sales process. But little insight here, those who are killing it recognize they have a sales process and they do a good job with it. And sometimes I imagine you've just got to work with your clients to help them tweak their mindset a little bit to see
Yeah,
that that's what's going to enable
sales.
them to have impact.
Absolutely. Sales and follow up often feel icky. Like they
Yeah.
don't want to be selling because they're
Right.
providing solutions. And this is people's health we're talking about.
Right.
And so that sort of reluctance to go down that sales path can definitely hurt them. And being
Yeah.
able to lean into the automation where they don't have to do it, they don't have to have all of those conversations. That's a game changer.
Yeah. So that's where I wanted to go because in the 2.5 decades of working with small businesses, one of the things that I found was a lot of times the um, professional services providers, especially in health, but you also see it very prevalent, very commonly in law. But even in many other professional services, the majority of the practitioners, they've got a great heart, sincere desire to help their clients or their patients, but they bristle at the sales and marketing work. And it's unfortunate because then sometimes they're the best practitioners, but their impact and their reach is limited because they don't want to actually get out there and do this work. So how does the automation free them up so they don't have to do it? Like maybe give a few examples because I'm positive we've got some people that are listening. They're like, yeah, I hate that crap too. I don't I don't want to do that.
I don't want to sell ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the power of automation is that you don't have to be selling, 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 and yet you
Right.
can always be selling in the background. So
Right.
maybe help people understand how you help your clients do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something I often say is that, just because you can diagnose something, that you can help these people doesn't necessarily, it's a completely different skill set to be able to market to them. Like you can understand and know the solutions, you can hear their pain and you can know what the solution is, but being able to market to them is a completely different skill set.
Yeah.
So a lot of what we do is based in story. I'm a story brand certified coach as well. And so we help build that messaging and build those stories in order to really connect with people who need your services.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about not selling the services, but selling the transformation. And so we
Hmm.
do that with the automation as well. We're always in every message that we send out, we're talking about the end result. We're casting that vision. And that's a completely different way of thinking than, here's a list of my services, come buy something.
Yeah.
And so being able to shift that and incorporate that type of approach into your automations, that really is what makes it feel different to them. When they can see those emails that are going out, those text messages that are going out, the tasks that are going to their team, that it is still that mission driven, that
Yeah.
heartfelt,
Right.
outreach. You can build that into automation. Automation is not cold robots. And it was funny you were saying earlier that we've been using AI for years, and only a couple of years ago did people start calling it AI and going,
Right.
woo, what's going on here?
Right.
But all of this has been in place for years. It's nothing to be afraid of, and it is absolutely powerful and useful in every industry, but particularly for these folks when we get the message right.
Yeah, I love that. What I'm hearing you say is you tell the story, And this is very natural for those practitioners who don't want to do the marketing, they don't want to do the selling. By the way,
Yes,
when they get a patient in front of them, they're very effective at conveying the benefits and helping
absolutely.
them. And they are technically closing the sale, even though they don't think of it
Hmm.
that way, but it's very
Hmm.
natural. And so to your point, the marketing part and getting, filling the funnel and getting people to move into that conversation where the practitioner is really good at it, that's the part that the practitioner shies away from and doesn't do. And then their opportunities to serve are fewer and they're few and far between versus what it could be when they've got the marketing working. So what I'm hearing you say is, and of course I understand what you're saying. I just want to sort of play it back and break it down for the audience. You get the story, you break it down into pieces, and you put that story into emails, text messages, communications that are going out to potential clients,
Hmm.
ideally the ideal client profile, that ICP, and then over time that story is being told in an automatic follow-up way where the practitioner's not doing it, but the audience on the other side is getting a personalized, individualized message, learning about the message from the practitioner in a way that resonates and makes sense to the listener or the recipient.
Yeah, and that, there's a whole lot of truth in what you said. When they're standing in front of someone and they're able to talk about that person's pain or the solutions that they have to offer, that's incredibly effective. But not always do you have that opportunity, particularly when somebody comes to your website or they're just researching solutions. You're not necessarily going to have that opportunity. So that's one side of it, and that's sort of, if we want to call that the sales end of it. The other side of it is also the follow up. I mean, the magic is in that follow up and being able to automate that. And, when somebody raises their hand and says, okay, I think I need this thing, and being
Yep,
able to specifically address those pain points and that solution in a way that turns them into those raving fans, right? And
that's
that's where
right.
the real magic happens, because in an industry like wellness, it is referrals that are the lifeblood of almost every business. And so
Hmm.
being able to automate the requests for reviews and referrals, being able to say, do you have a friend or family member on a regular basis who would benefit from the exact same thing that you benefited from?
That's right.
That, it sort of triggers something in people that you don't necessarily get to have that conversation face to face, but you can definitely, have it via email, via text, via a direct mail piece, something along those lines.
That's right. I mean, the automation of follow-up, that is where the fortunes change dramatically for small business owners. I mean, I say all the time, the fortunes in the follow-up. And when you can automate that with an authentic story and authentic message with relevant information that's going out to the recipient, it's a dream for the practitioner because it's like they have, I mean, it truly is, an agent working on their behalf, as agentic AI, as they say. It is literally an agent working for
Mhm.
them, doing that follow-up work, and they don't have to be out there constantly having that conversation. They get to be talking to the person in front of them, practicing their craft, serving, having a great impact. So I love that. And you called it out specifically in whether you're advertising to generate a lead and then taking them through that follow-up process, or you are getting a referral, taking them through a follow-up process that would be slightly tweaked and a little different because it's got to be personalized for that scenario of a referral. Are there other areas where you're besides, those are two examples, other areas where you're using automation to change the game for your health and wellness practitioners?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about, making sure that automation is baked into every part of the customer life cycle. And we look at where are those gaps, most of the practitioners that come to me we need leads. Like we need leads. And,
Right.
and they'll be my website's broken, fix my website. And 9 times out of 10, neither of those is the problem. Yes, you
Yeah.
need to generate leads, and yes, your website is probably lacking in some areas.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it is just follow through. Oh yes, we have an Instagram account, but I'm not posting over there. Well, if
Right.
we free you up from all of this other minutia, then you might have time to actually answer those DMs that you're getting on Instagram and
Yeah.
generate some more business.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of looking at those gaps in that customer journey and how does your customer come to you. We also do a lot of analysis by talking to the practitioner themselves. So we do an hour and a half interview and really do a thorough intake in order to make sure that
Yeah.
we are understanding where their practice is, where their patients are, and how they're coming in, and how we can where in that story can we automate? Where can we really just capitalize on what you're already doing well? And that's a lot
Yeah.
of what we look for.
I love that. You guys do great work with your clients. I know from working with over the years and hearing some of your clients' comments. And I think in part it's because you really do get in there and understand and you're able to tell their
Mhm.
story for them and break it into the messaging and the pieces that go out. And you called out something that I think is really important. It's not just, you know, you and I both know when we're working with businesses that want to grow, the very first thing is I need more leads. And of course, you do need more leads. It's one of the four ways to really drive growth, drive revenue growth. By the way, it's one of the four. It's not the way.
Right. Not the
Um,
one, yes.
and by the way, what are those four things? It's more leads, it's better conversion, it's higher revenue at the point of sale, and then it's upsells, cross sells, repeat business. So that last part, the reviews, referrals, repeat business part, is where all the gold is, because it's where all of the profit is, because you're not spending all
That's
the
the
money to
magic.
generate the lead, work the lead, all that stuff, and yet it's
Yes.
the part that's so often overlooked. I have to tell you this little story because it just happened to me literally this morning, and I had no idea that I was going to talk about this, and so this is like real time hot. But I want to inspire the people that are listening in your space that it's not just about getting more leads. Okay, so here's my story. About 5.5 years ago, I wanted to work on my kind of resetting my weight. I had been at the kind of the same weight, give or take a few pounds, and it was about 15 pounds more than I wanted. And I was like, why do I always do this? I heard an advertisement over and over and over on the radio for an organization that's called Revitalize here in Phoenix. And so I went and I did it. I did the program. I followed it religiously. It was awesome. I knocked kind of 15 pounds off of my base weight, and I stayed that way for about 2 or 3 years. And then I kind of slowly inched back up and sort of regained about half of what I had lost. And about 3 weeks ago, I was like, you know what? I want to get back to where that was. And I know, like, they taught me a bunch of great things. I turned into a water drinker, which I'd never been before, intermittent faster, better on my balanced macros. But I still don't love vegetables like they taught me to. And so I was like, you know what? I need to go back to this. I'd never heard from them once since I ended the program 5 years ago. And 2 weeks ago, I went and I pulled out the
Wow.
materials and I was like, you know what? I think I might just kind of redo this myself. Well, this morning, no joke, I am not even kidding you. I get this text, and it's a text that I get out of nowhere. I'm literally going to read this to you because I was like, oh, wow, great follow up. Here's the text. Random check in. How are things in your world, Clay? Going through some old files and reaching out to some past members to say hi and thank you for allowing us to walk alongside you on your wellness journey. Shoot me an update. Would love to hear how things are going for you since we've last seen you. Avery at Revitalize Weight Loss and Wellness. In 10 minutes later, that turned into an appointment with me to meet with them to do a reset and recalibration. I'm going to spend a bunch of money and I'm going to go through it again so they can teach me to learn vegetables. But the fact is, it works. It totally
Yep.
works. Here it was 5 years later, and they followed up. And I probably would have done it 2 years ago or 3 years ago if they would have followed up with me back then. So
Yeah.
it's
They got a good
listening.
marketer in there.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And these programs, these are thousands of dollars. It's not like this is a
Right.
high ticket item. So for those who are out there saying I need more leads, guess what? Your leads are your prior customers. You just got to go work with them like with a simple text like that.
Well, and to your point, had they followed up sooner, you probably would have taken action sooner.
For sure.
And so for them to wait that long to follow up, I would bet that probably half or more of their clients, they do have that the moment where they backslide a little bit. I mean,
Hmm.
and you
Yeah,
need to nip that in the bud and not let it get out of hand. And so that's a perfect time. So if they can figure out with their clients and ask those questions, well, when did you start to see the weight start to creep back on, and just sort of measure that,
right.
even anecdotally, then they would know when to send that text for the most effective,
And
marketing.
that, what you just described, is what makes you so good in the work that you do. You interview, you work with your client, you find out when are the right intervals for us to have the natural follow-ups, and then you put on autopilot, you automate the follow-up that occurs post-client. Because if they would have followed up with me 1 year later, I probably wouldn't have done anything then, but they'd be in my mind, and I might have reached back out to them when I was ready. Or if they would have followed up on an annual thing, or every quarter or something. I loved the program. I was a raving fan, and I still appreciate everything they did for me. It's why I'm getting tons of benefits from it still 5 years later. But I want to optimize it and get a little better and do some of the things that I didn't quite pick up the last time and really work them into my behaviors. That's what great automation will do, is it helps people get the benefits of the services we offer.
Yeah, and that deep, deep understanding of the client journey, that's really what allows those automations to be as effective as they possibly can be. It's
Yeah.
not, it's automated, but it doesn't feel automated. It feels like they reached out to you and took your hand and said, how can we help you? And at
Yeah.
the exact right moment. And that's what it's all about.
And that's what's so interesting is people sometimes think, oh, well, if it's automated, it's not personal. How personal do you think that one that I got randomly after 5 years felt? Not so personal. But if they had been sending me something once a year
Right?
as an
Yes.
annual, as an anniversary check-in, and hey, just wanted to remind you of the great results that you had when you were here. How are things going now? I definitely would have checked in. And now stop and think about it. Now let's like, kind of take away the marketer, customer, client acquisition, revenue part of it. You've got a, a client over here that actually wants to improve quality of life, wants to get the benefits of the impact of this great service provider. And so for that service provider that's like, I don't like to do that work, you're limiting your impact. I was not benefited and blessed by the program the way I could have been if they had done if they had, like you said, gotten a marketer in there to help them do
Right.
the automation the way they need to. And nobody has to spend any time on it. Once you set it up, it's running, it's live. Each time a client goes through the program, they get dropped into the automated follow-up, and you get more reviews, more referrals, more repeat business,
Absolutely. And
and happier
understanding
clients.
those milestones along the way. So, one thing that early in the days of automation, we would talk about, okay, anniversary reminders, birthday reminders, and those are dates on a calendar. But if
Yeah.
you truly understand your customer's journey, 6 weeks in, this thing happens. 2 weeks in, they're
Yes.
having buyer's remorse and they're not sure they're going to get the results. Like if you dial into those pain points that are part of that journey inherently, then those automations feel personal and they feel real. So,
Totally. And it instead of, it's automation that feels personal, which is the great irony because so many business owners will say, well, automation, that's too, it's not
right.
personal.
Icky.
Yeah. So I want to finish with this thing. This morning, literally, I was reading something from a guy that I really like, and he said, here's AI in a sentence. Now, there's lots of different kinds of AI. There's generative AI, there's agentic AI, but here's what he said. Here's AI in a sentence. Map, identify a workflow and map that workflow over a course of 30 days so that you understand it, and then put an agent on it to run it automatically for you, which to me sounds a lot like the work we've been doing for years and years, which is take a
Yes.
workflow, take a process,
Yep.
lay
Yep.
it out, understand it really well, and then put it into our automation engine, which
Absolutely.
we probably should just call an AI engine because
Well,
that really is what it is.
absolutely. And I remember back in the early days of Infusionsoft, one of the key things that has stuck in my mind for years and years is if there's anything that you do 3 times in a week, we can automate
Yes,
it.
that's right.
And so,
That's
so
right.
I use that all
Exactly.
the time. Think of what you hate doing that you do 3 times a week, and we can automate that.
I love it. So I want to finish on this point though around AI. How are you, because a lot of people out there are like, gosh, I don't know what I should be doing. And it's like, well, you do that. You map your work, you find a workflow, something you're doing over and over, you map it, and then you have automation do it for you, AI do it for you. Are you finding that your clients are embracing it? Are they, nervous by it? How do you help them see what you're doing in this new AI world?
So it's really interesting because I used to shy away from using the word automation in my marketing because people didn't understand what it was and
Yeah.
they didn't know, and so I would have to describe it and I would have to talk about outcomes and all of
Yep.
that. And nowadays automation is pretty common.
Yeah.
And so when you start talking about automation, they still might have a little there's a little trepidation there. They're not quite sure what they're getting themselves into. But once you start to explain, okay, this is how this works, it's working, it has worked for 20 years. People ask me why keep? Why do you go back to keep all the time? Because it's proven. It's been out there for 20 years. It is the
Yeah.
Cadillac. It is the ultimate engine for your automation.
It is.
And so once we get to that point, then they're all in. They're
Yeah.
all in. And when we talk about the messaging and bake that in, it's a cakewalk because they're gonna buy into all of it. They're gonna drink
I
the Kool-Aid just like I did.
I love it. You're so right about automation. One of the things I found is some of those same people who were so worried about automation are perfectly happy to adopt AI and be part of the cool kids.
Yeah.
It's like really okay. That's fine. Hey, how about just this? You're doing AI when you do automation.
Right. It's all one and the same. Do not
So
be afraid.
fun. Yeah,
Yep.
so
Yep.
fun. Well, is there anything else that you want to share as we talk about this great game changer of automation, how the fortunes in the follow-up, anything else that you want our listeners to hear if they're kind of nervous about jumping into this world of automation?
Well, I mean, I don't know that anybody is necessarily nervous about automation these days. I think baking in the AI, they're a little bit nervous about that. And I have a lot of practitioners who are like, I know I should be using this. I know I should
Yes.
be using AI. I know I should be using automation. I just don't know how. So the best advice I can give is just reach out, try and have a conversation with somebody who does know, do a little bit of research. Because most of the people that we work with, they're so smart and they're so well trained in what it is that they do. Just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the knowledge. It may be out of your comfort zone, but you can absolutely understand it, and you can find a guide who will help you get through it.
Yep.
So that would be my best advice.
I love it. Well, you're a great guide. You practice the story brand framework well. The hero is your business owner client, and you're a guide to help them achieve the goals that they want. Big fan of Donald Miller, a friend of mine, and what he does with Story Brand. But you're doing awesome work in the health and wellness space, and I hope. I wish you'd been working with the organization that I just shared, but I will say they are great. They do great work. I wouldn't have shared their name if I didn't really appreciate what they do and the way they've helped me. But I do think they could help more people if they would practice some of the things that you're sharing here. So thank you for being on here. Is there anything else? How about this? Maybe where can people learn more about you if they want to
Sure.
see more about what you do at SALT?
Yeah. Before I do that, just a sincere expression of gratitude for everything that you've done and everything that you've built. Honestly, Infusionsoft back in the day changed my life, changed my perspective, changed the way I think about things. So
Thank you.
with that out of the way, we are saltmarketing.co online if you want to go to our website. I am easy to find on LinkedIn. There are not a lot of Orechwas out there. So I'm Jennifer, Orechwa. So you can definitely find me on LinkedIn. And we're also on Instagram, Salt Marketing Co. on Instagram, and Salt Marketing Team on Facebook, so you can easily find us. And I would love to talk with anybody. We love to do just a little bit of an audit and a conversation. We can have a quick 15-minute conversation to see if we're a fit, and help out as much as we possibly can.
I love it. Well, thank you for being such a great partner over the years. I loved seeing you use our product to grow your business with automation, and then to see you go spread that in the niche that you've chosen is just so fun to see. So thank you for that, and thank you for sharing your experience and your wisdom around automation. I think you and I are alike, and we wish people would just adopt more of it because it is such a game changer for small business. But thanks for sharing. It's been super fun to catch up with you, and thanks for everybody that's has been listening in to this episode of the Conquer the Chaos podcast. We've been talking about automation, all about it and how it can change your business. We hope you'll take action on this and not just listen to it, but say, okay, well, what's something that I can automate? Let's take Jennifer's point. If there's something you're doing 3 times in a week and you're doing it over and over, let's get that automated. It will save you time little by little. You'll get more and more of your time back in your day, and that's what we want you to do. Buy back your time with automation. So until next time, thank you, everybody. Get out there and conquer the chaos. Thanks so much for listening. Subscribe right here on YouTube or in your favorite podcast app to make sure that you don't miss a single episode of the Conquer the Chaos podcast. And hey, if you like this episode, let's get this out to more entrepreneurs. We all know that it is not easy to grow a great business and a great life. And so let's get this message out to others. Make sure that you hit the like button, that you comment, and that you share it with others so that we can help other entrepreneurs build a great business and a great life as they conquer the chaos. Keep going, keep serving, and keep growing.